Maybe just for the sake of aesthetics, you can blend out that I have all my clothes on my chair. I don't know, does anybody else do that? Like if you're not done wearing those clothes, but you're not wearing them right now, then you just kind of hang them over your chair. Maybe that wasn't the right thing to share, but it was a rhyme. What I actually wanted to talk about today was I started university. Well, actually, I started the school I'm going to isn't called a university, but it is a university. That is very confusing, so I'll just call it a university for now. It's kind of hard and stressful. The thing is, I kind of knew that going into the whole thing. But of course, it's always easier to like be brave when you don't have to be, if that makes sense. Point being, I'm a bit stressed at the moment. I've made my life a bit extra difficult once again by studying something that is absolutely not part of anything I've done till now. I'm studying biology, though my focus in the previous school in Switzerland, Gymnasium, was music, and in my gap here I did an internship in writing, and now I'm doing biology. And I'm surrounded by tons of people who had that as their major in school, and they know stuff that I don't know. Kind of irritating when you get the feeling that the whole room knows what the person in front is talking about except for you. And also just generally, so I'm aware that I need to maybe work a bit harder in the first few months than some other people who've had it as a major and already are familiar with all of these things. But it's something I'm willing to do, at least at the moment. And despite me feeling like I'm the only person feeling this way, I'm sure I'm not, because I know that in general, university can be a stressful experience. And I'm half through the semester as of last week, and I feel like with time I kind of figured out what works for me and what doesn't, and I think that that's just like a phase everybody has to go through to find out how much they need to study, what form of studying works for them, where they need to put in their efforts, what helps them study, like those kind of things. But I feel like there are some things that just all around probably would help, and I thought I could talk about those today because, I don't know, maybe I just also need to talk some comfort into myself. Point number one that I wanted to start with, I haven't actually made a list or like, as always, have thought about anything really before starting recording, but let's just see what I come up with. One of the things I learned early on is, if possible, I know it's not always possible and it's way easier said than done, but don't work the entire weekend on stuff for university, because if you're still working Sunday evening on things from last week, you will not have the feeling of having rested when you start on Monday. And I know that that's not something you can always implement, but I think it's important to at least sometimes introduce breaks in between the weekend so that your entire weekend isn't full of studying. And that can look different. That can be meeting a friend, playing an instrument, doing the dishes. Just like occupy your brain with something else so that your brain isn't just going. What I found is that when Sunday night I go to sleep, I'm still thinking, like my brain doesn't stop. I'm still thinking about all of those different equations and how does that work and what's the principle of that, and the brain just doesn't stop. So I think it's important to be able to set fixed breaks. I also think it's important to be able to rest and take a break. There are some days, today for example, where I would have tasks I would need to do, or I could use my time for uni stuff, but some days you just don't feel like it, or you can't even concentrate properly. Of course, that shouldn't be the majority of the days, but there will be some days probably where you won't be able to work, or if not that, of course, that's perfect. But if you do, I try to tell myself, I think it's okay to rest and allow that, and then be productive rather than try to force it in, like try to force all the information into your head and not being able to absorb any of it. And then it's a lose-lose situation instead of just a lose-win situation, because if you rest, you win on one hand. Does that make sense? So on one hand you try to study but can't absorb anything and you don't rest. So in the end it's like lost time. Or you can rest and not study, so you don't absorb what you wanted to absorb, but at least you rested so that at a later point you'll be able to absorb it better. That's at least my philosophy around it. I also think it helps to kind of make a to-do list for the weekend, so that at the end of the weekend you feel like you've done something, because something that I feel when you study, it's not really tangible how much you've studied. So you can feel like you've been working all day, but at the end of the day you look back and you don't really know what you've done, and that can sometimes be a bit discouraging. So what I've started doing is doing to-do lists, so that at the end of the day I can cross off those things and actually see I have done something. Another thing is I can recommend trying to find the way of studying that really works for you, and not just taking over somebody else's way of studying. At the beginning of the semester, everybody's motivated. Everybody goes to each class, every class, takes their notes, does everything like perfectly. But for a lot of people, that isn't realistic to maintain throughout the entire semester, just because also things accumulate and then they snowball. So I think it's important to know where to put your efforts in. Like for me in the moment, it's physics and maths. That's where I need to put most of my effort in, because that's where I have the biggest difficulties. I don't benefit by studying the way somebody else does who has like different strengths. I also don't feel like the weather really helps, because towards winter, the days start getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So you get up and it's dark. You come home and it's dark. And it just makes the whole process a bit harder. It's 8:30 in the morning and, sorry, that's my cat. And the weather still looks hazy, like it's, the really early morning haze, but it's already 8:30. It just looks like it's way earlier than it is. And while those days are more common than not, I do think that it's important to try to get out of the house once a day. I cannot pretend that I do that all of the time, but some days, on those rare occasions when the sun does shine, I think it can be really nice and also bring you into a good mood. I can just tell from myself that I do realize if I've been outside during the day or not. It doesn't have to be long, like usually it's for me like 20 minutes to half an hour, just like a little walk. I think it does make a difference in your all-around state, and it also just like gives a nice break throughout the day. And then once you get back home, you can like look at things with a new mindset or with new eyes. I don't know. Does one kind of understand what I mean? I hope this makes sense. Hi. See, and sometimes you even see a cute kitty. Also, don't undervalue your sleep. That's something I've been implementing for a while, but I think it's important to really get your sleep, because without sleep, nothing works. And sleep is important for like basically everything to function. So if you don't sleep, you can't really do much, or you won't be able to work as efficiently as you would if you'd had enough sleep. And the next point goes into something I've mentioned before already, is that don't make university your entire life. Don't have Monday to Sunday be only university, because then again you get into that brain not turning off thing and your whole world revolves around this one thing. And I'm generally of the opinion that it's not good to put all of your eggs in one basket. The same as taking breaks during studying. I think it's good to just like sometimes maybe go to the movies and say, okay, well, I won't review this slide right now. Of course, you should like not be distracting yourself all of the time because you're still in university. My point is more that you still maintain a life outside of university. And I think most important of all is try not to let yourself get discouraged too quickly, because I do find myself having on like a weekly basis a mini crisis about, is this the right thing to study? Am I studying the right thing? Am I good enough? Can I pass? All of those things. While I think that just kind of is part of the whole university experience to kind of have one's doubts, I think it's important to not give up too quickly. And I'm saying that because I'm trying to remind myself of that. But yeah, if you are in a situation like this, like in university, and you're struggling at the moment still a bit with finding your way, I wish you good luck. I wish myself good luck. And yeah, see you next time.